This is a Citrus TV News special report.
New York State will have a new governor for the first time in over a decade. A Syracuse University graduate set to take on the role. Good evening, I'm Ricky Sayer, and thank you for joining us for this digital Citrus TV News special report. Just 14 days remain with Governor Andrew Cuomo in office. He announced today that he would resign from his position. This just a week after the release of a state attorney general report that found Cuomo sexually harassed multiple women. Cuomo has denied those charges, but he's seen support plummet. Cuomo addressed New Yorkers today.
And I think that given the circumstances, the best way I can help now is if I step aside and let government get back to governing. And therefore, that's what I'll do.
Tonight, we'll take a look at how we got here, look ahead, and hear how a Syracuse University student leader is reacting. But first, on this special digital program, we turn to Citrus TV reporter Louise Rath with more on what the governor said today.
Thanks, Ricky. It's been a week since New York Attorney General Letitia James revealed the findings of an investigation into sexual harassment claims against the governor. Now he is stepping back as leader of New York State. The Attorney General's investigation found that the governor sexually harassed 11 women, including current and former state employees. Governor Cuomo announcing his resignation just moments after his attorney, Rita Glavin, held a press briefing to address her concerns with the Attorney General's investigation. Cuomo himself saying the report is false. Glavin says the investigation got key facts wrong and omitted evidence.
And my instinct is to fight through this controversy because I truly believe it is politically motivated. I believe it is unfair and it is untruthful.
But that's not what Cuomo is doing. Since the release of the Attorney General's investigation, lawmakers from across the state and the country have been calling on the governor to resign, including President Biden. Just yesterday, the state assembly outlining weeks of impeachment proceedings against the governor if he didn't resign.
And wasting energy on distractions is the last thing that state government should be doing. And I cannot be the cause of that.
And so Andrew Cuomo becomes the 8th governor in state history to step down. Throughout the months-long investigation, Cuomo continuously apologizing for, quote, acting in a way that made people uncomfortable. The governor also thanking the 11 women who came forward.
But I want to thank the women who came forward with sincere complaints. It's not easy to step forward, but you did an important service.
Lindsey Boylan was the first woman to accuse the governor of sexual harassment back in December. Today, she says she is thankful for all of those who pursued the truth, despite intimidation and threats of retaliation. In just 14 days, Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul will ascend to the role of Governor of New York State. Louise Rath, Citrus TV News.
Thanks, Louise. Let's turn now to Citrus TV Talking Points analyst Moriah Humiston for some insight. Moriah, how surprising is it that Cuomo stepped down?
Thanks, Ricky. Today was a surprising day for New York State and New York State politics with the resignation of Andrew Cuomo. Many reports today saying that people were reacting just outside of the state capitol. But this wasn't just surprising for residents of New York, but major political leaders as well, one being Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Now, Chuck Schumer was one of many Democrats who called on Cuomo to resign, and he was unaware that the resignation was happening prior to Cuomo's statement earlier today. And not only is this what many are calling a bombshell in politics for New York State, but also for the White House. Now, President Biden was also unaware that this resignation was happening until Governor Cuomo made the statement today. And many are surprised in New York State about what impact this has on Governor Cuomo's legacy. Now, we know prior to this, Governor Cuomo was planning on having a 4th term in office, and this resignation puts him ending before the end of his 3rd.
Louise mentioned earlier that prior to Governor Cuomo's announcement earlier today, his attorney Rita Glavin made an announcement saying that the key facts of the report were wrong. Can you give us some details of her press briefing?
So, Ricky, prior to Governor Cuomo's announcement today, his attorney gave a press briefing that was just over 40 minutes, and it mainly highlighted that since day one, this report was about building a case against Governor Cuomo.
This was not about an independent review of the allegations and the circumstances surrounding them.
The rest of the 40-minute press briefing also mentioned a blame with the media for creating an unfair environment for the governor and said that overall, the 165-page report failed to collect relevant evidence for Governor Cuomo's resignation or impeachment.
Finally, a question many New Yorkers are asking is what happens next after the resignation. Moriah, what is next for New York and Governor Cuomo?
Ricky, while this has been a busy and surprising day for New York State politics and media, the conversation is far from over. For example, Albany County Sheriff's Office says Governor Cuomo is still under investigation for criminal conduct from a complaint filed last week. His resignation does not change anything about that investigation, and with that, the state assembly could still press on with impeachment. Now, we don't know if that's going to happen yet, but if it does, Governor Cuomo could be barred from ever running for statewide office again. Right now, with just his resignation, he could still run. So this is not something that we're going to stop hearing about at the end of today. This is going to be an ongoing conversation with the future of Governor Cuomo's resignation, what that's going to look like in 14 days, and what the future of New York State politics is going to look like.
Thanks, Moriah. Let's break down how he got here. It was just a year ago that Cuomo was flying high. His COVID press conferences broadcast live on cable across the country. A lot has changed since then. In mid-December, Lindsey Boylan was the first woman to accuse Cuomo of sexually harassing her. She said Cuomo forcibly kissed her and attempted to play a game of strip poker with her. Former Cuomo executive assistant Charlotte Bennett stepped forward by the end of February. She said that as late as the spring of 2020, Cuomo would initiate conversations about sex and ask if she had relationships with older men. Cuomo apologized on February 28th, but stopped short of saying his actions were inappropriate. Around this time, investigations into Cuomo's behavior began. The Attorney General's investigation began on March 1st. Over the subsequent months, more women came forward saying Cuomo had touched them inappropriately. Cuomo apologized on February 28th, but stopped short of saying his actions were inappropriate. Around this time, investigations into Cuomo's behavior began. The Attorney General's investigation began on March 1st. Over the subsequent month, more women came forward saying Cuomo had touched them inappropriately. One said Cuomo groped her at the governor's mansion and attempted to cover it up. A Senate impeachment investigation got underway on March 11th. Over the next few months, pressure from Cuomo to resign grew. 55 Democratic New York legislators signed letters. Pressure came from national voices like Senator Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand. Cuomo said to wait for the investigations to conclude. The state attorney general's report was concluded and released on August 3rd. That brings us to today, as Cuomo announces his resignation effective in 14 days. Reaction has been pouring in. I spoke today at the U.S. Capitol with Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. She told me the governor did the right thing today. She also commended who she said are the brave and courageous women who stepped forward. Senator Schumer said the decision is the right one to help the people of New York. State Attorney General Letitia James said today that today closed a sad chapter for all of New York, but said it is an important step towards justice. Syracuse Mayor Ben Walsh said Cuomo's resignation ensures the focus of state government will be focused on the people of New York. One of Cuomo's accusers, Lindsey Boylan, tweeted today that the governor attacked and blamed victims until the end, noting how she says it's a tragedy that so many people stood by. An attorney for accuser Charlotte Bennett said it's a solemn day. Turning to campus now, we are getting reaction in from the Syracuse University Student Association. This afternoon, CitrusTV reporter Chilekasi Adele spoke with Student Association President David Bruen.
Thank you for joining us. Governor Cuomo, he's resigned, as you know, in light of the Attorney General's report. I just want to get your reaction quickly from the perspective of SA president. Not only that, but someone who's involved with the Democratic Party. You are from the state of New York, I believe Rockland County. What are your thoughts on a day like today?
Yeah, so again, very surprised that this happened, but I'm pleased. I think the AG's report was extremely legitimate. It's important that we as people and as Democrats believe survivors. And so I'm glad that finally the governor did the right thing and is stepping aside. And as student body president of Syracuse University, where the new governor is an alum, I'm very excited to see what the governor does going forward. And as a local Democratic official, I've been talking with a lot of people in recent weeks and months about this, and I think we're all very pleased that finally the governor is stepping aside, because we were imagining that we would have to organize in some capacity to prevent re-elections. So I'm very happy.
Now, you called for Cuomo to resign after the report was released by Attorney General Letitia James last week. You said it was a surprise to you. Was there any step during the past week that it became evident he would step down? Was Melissa DeRosa resigning a sign that maybe something would happen there?
You know, I've been saying for a while now that the governor has the same level of stubbornness and self-pride as our former president. And I think the writing has been on the wall for a while. But the president, the Speaker of the House, the Senate Majority Leader, senators and representatives from across the state, across both parties, everyone calling for him to resign, the public completely turning on him. I think it was pretty clear. And yet I still thought he was going to stay in office and hold on to his pride. And so although this is the right thing to do, and in some ways we should have expected this a long time ago, just because of who this governor is, I am a little surprised that it came today and not last week even, or months ago.
Kathy Hochul, who's next in line, who in 2 weeks will be the governor of New York State. She's a Buffalo native, SU grad. How does that feel, being an SU grad and elevating to the governorship now? And also, what does her being the first female governor mean for the state of New York?
Yeah, well, I gotta say, I feel an immense amount of pride, as I'm sure you do too, as a Syracuse student, to have both the president of the United States and the incoming governor of New York, both from our university and attached to it in so many ways. So just right off the bat, immensely prideful. My hope is that it leads to some level of engagement, both from the governor and the president in the short term. And what was the other part of your question?
What does her being the first female governor mean to you?
Yeah, I think extremely historic, right? Not many female lieutenant governors, let alone governors, in not just right now, but in our nation's history. And I was just reading something, you know, it's a little sort of extraneous statistic, but she will also be the female governor that has represented the most people, the greatest population of any state ever. The last person, or the person below her, was Ann Richards when she was governor of Texas. So extremely, extremely historic, and is just adding to this amazing wave of woman leaders coming into power. I mean, look at Vice President Harris, now Governor Hochul. There's just so much to be proud of and look forward to.
Thank you, Chilekasi, and thank you, David. As they mentioned, the next governor of New York is set to be Syracuse University alum Kathy Hochul. She'll become the state's first female governor. For more on Hochul's story and what we can expect from her as governor, we now turn to CitrusTV reporter Bond Photos. Bond.
As Cuomo's second in command, Kathleen Courtney Hochul has served as the lieutenant governor for New York State since 2015. Replacing Cuomo's former running mate, Robert Duffy, in the 2014 election, she formerly represented the 26th District of New York in the House of Representatives after working as a county clerk for Erie County. Born in Buffalo, New York, Hochul went on to study at Syracuse University, receiving a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1980. It is here that she became politically active by leading efforts to name this dome after Ernie Davis, boycotting the bookstore due to high prices, improving student meal plans, and lobbying the university to cut ties with apartheid South Africa. Her efforts led the Daily Orange to award Hochul an A grade in 1979, which symbolizes her achievements for on-campus changes. A Democrat, it is expected that Hochul will continue to support liberal measures in line with those of President Biden. As such, it is expected she will implement incentives to develop alternative energy sources, raise taxes for those whose income is greater than $500,000 per year, balance the budget to limit deficit spending, and support the Affordable Care Act with an emphasis in pro-choice. She is also an outspoken critic of NAFTA, which affects the state of New York due to its shared border to Canada. As Lieutenant Governor, Hochul has chaired regional economic development councils, a task force meant to combat heroin addiction and opioid addiction, and led the Enough is Enough campaign meant to combat sexual abuse on college campuses. She is also noted as supporting legislation that provides undocumented immigrants a driver's license, a move she opposed as Erie County's clerk in 2007.
Thanks, Bond. In January, I spoke with Hochul about the presidential inauguration of another Syracuse alum, Joe Biden, of course. I asked her what it says about Syracuse University students to have one of our alumni reach the presidency.
There's a certain caliber of people who go to a place like Syracuse University. They're engaged, they care about the community, and there's many walks of life. When I was there, I was vice president of student government. I was involved in very much activism, as we define it in many ways. I was fighting to get the dome at the time, which is interesting. I was there when they're putting up the original Carrier Dome, and we wanted it named after Ernie Davis, the first Black Heisman Trophy winner who came out of Syracuse. And we've been in touch with great alumni like Jim Brown and others to raise the funds. And all of a sudden we're students and we were really crushed and felt so bad and we lost that opportunity. But we did get the Ernie Davis Hall of Fame inside the dome. So I was involved in student politics way back. And so I was surrounded by other individuals who worked at the Daily Orange, who had gone to the Newhouse School, people who are going to be engaged in their communities once they graduated, whether they came through Maxwell, they came through the Newhouse School, or any of the other disciplines that we have there. And we had, Dana Balter, someone who teaches at the university, running for Congress recently in the Syracuse area. So I don't think it's strange that anybody who really cares about making a change in the country and in their own states and communities, that they would find themselves at a place like Syracuse. I'm still very connected. I visit there every time I'm in Syracuse, just about. I go to the campus, I walk through the halls, I visit the chancellor, say hi to some old professors. Sometimes actually one or two of them are still around when I stop by. And also the college Dems. I stay in touch with Gia Spicola, a young woman who's one of my interns, who is vice president of the college Dems. So I stay in touch with them. I did a Zoom party with Syracuse alumni across the state a few months ago. So I stay connected. There is a special bond between people who spend any time, whether it was undergrad or law school or one of the other graduate disciplines. Once you've been there, you have that special bond that lasts a lifetime.
Earlier today, I spoke with an SU law student who told me that, like Biden, SU students point themselves toward the betterment of people around them. Is that something that you agree with? Absolutely. There's something about when you're in that institution, you're around people who really care. They care. And whether you're in the School of Architecture, you're looking to find ways to do green housing and try to protect our environment. I knew many students in the nursing schools, other programs that we have. I think it is a very caring place. It's nurturing. And, it's a very diverse community. And I had a chance to come from a pretty homogeneous background in the outskirts of Buffalo and really be dropped into a world that represented our country and our nation more vibrantly. And I think there's something to be taken away from that experience as well.
You can catch the full interview on the CitrusTV YouTube channel. Hochul tweeted today that she agrees with Cuomo's decision to step down, saying it's the right thing to do and in the best interest of New Yorkers. She adds she is prepared for the role of governor. So, Governor Cuomo has given his 2 weeks' notice. Syracuse University students will return to campus with a new woman at the top of state government at a time when state government plays such a prominent role in campus life. There really is no telling how this could end up affecting us on campus. We'll just have to wait and see, but CitrusTV will of course be there to tell you how it does. Thanks for watching this Citrus TV News digital special report. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook for the latest. We'll be back on air on campus in just a few short weeks. Until then, from the Syracuse University Summer Newsroom at Washington, D.C.'s National Press Club, I'm Ricky Sayer. Good night.